Hey everybody, it's Angel from Halo Inspirations. We give you inspirations to help you spread beauty and joy through your quilting journey. Today is part 3 or part 2, depending on how you look at it, right? Because we had the intro in the first video, then we assembled our blocks for the placemat. Now we're going to put all the blocks together and do the quilt assembly or the placemat assembly. And we call that, once it's finished, we call it a topper. Or some people just refer to it as a top, and some people actually call it a flimsy. In a quilt fashion, I went ahead and brought one out. This one's not quite done. I'm working on the border as we speak, but it is a quilt, okay? It's all pieced together, but as you see, there's no backing it. I don't have it sandwiched with a batting. So this is a topper or a top or flimsy. You might hear any one of those words. So that's what we're doing today. We're creating our flimsy or topper or top. Okay. So they're both variations are done the same. You just have different blocks per se, but they're both the same. So I will probably just show you the one, and I'll throw a picture for the second one on how of the assembly part, you know, as far as how to lay it out, because that's the first step. Just like when we did when we're constructing our blocks, we want to lay out those blocks how we want it to finish. We're going to do the same thing with our top. You want to lay it out just as you would as you want it finished. So let's go ahead and get this party started, and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so here's the first variation, and this is how it is suggested in the pattern to lay it out. Of course, it's always up to you how you'd like to do that. And just like when we constructed the individual block, you want to lay it out exactly how you want it to finish as, and then we're going to sew the first row together, and then we're going to sew the second row together, and then we're going to sew them both together. Now, instead of throwing a picture, I thought it would be better if I went ahead and just laid out on top the other version. Matter of fact, we'll just pull it out. Okay. I'm going to lay out the second version. And this is the suggested in the quilt pattern how to lay out your blocks to get the top finished. All right, and again, you sew the first row together, then you sew the second row together, and then you sew the rows together. So I'll see you in just a second at my sewing machine. We're going to go ahead and get this done. So here we are at my sewing machine. We're going to go ahead and sew the first row together, and then we're going to go ahead and sew the second row together. Just like we did with the block assembly, you just want to take that first block and flip it over. Take your second row first block and flip it over, okay? And again, you know me, I'm all about getting those ends clipped of which side that I want to go ahead and sew them on, right? And if you'll notice, I still have a leader ender here. Now it's been a day or 2 or 3 or whatever, and I've just left it. Turn off my machine, leave it underneath the needle. It's ready to go for whatever next project I'm going on. But that is my starter. You just want to put your blocks together. Make sure the corners are lining up. There we go. Now, to make this easier on myself, these particular blocks are 1 unit. There's no seams, correct? I'm going to put that face down so that I don't worry about the seams on the other block flipping over underneath and I can't see it. I'm able to see what's going on with those seams to make sure that they lay flat. Okay, I'm going to place that underneath, and you could pin them if you like to make sure that they stay together. And we're going to go ahead, get that first block sewn through. I really should turn my speed up, huh? And then I'm not cutting threads again. I'm going to take the second row's blocks. Again, I'm going to place them together, making sure that the corners match, making sure that the edges are straight, and I'm still going to place it down so that that full fabric is together. Now remember, when we flipped it like that, when we took from that first row and flipped it to the middle, we're allowing those right sides, or the pretty sides, to be together, and the wrong sides are on the outside. That's what you want, so we can hide those seams inside of our quilt. Ooh, I think it just moved. I'm gonna have to check my seam allowance again. I just want to get it nice and straight. Oh boy, it's a little crooked. There we go. Okay, now at this point, you know what? I'm going to show you another method. I'm going to go ahead and cut off that first block that belongs on the first row. I'm going to snip my starter. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to make sure that I lie it down how I want it to go in the finished top. Now I will say, now is important on which direction that you're going to press. And you want to press both rows. When you go to press towards the 9 patches, okay? In both variations, you want to do that. Makes it easy to remember. Press towards, and remember, I put the 9 patch on top so that my seam will press towards the 9 patch. That's like my dark side, for instance. All right. Then I'm going to lay it out again. I'm going to take the block I want to add to, and I'm going to flip it on top of the middle one. Okay. And again, I'm going to clip it real quick. Make sure I'm ready to go. Pick this up. Now remember, we want to line up those corners and make sure that our edge is nice and straight. And I'm going to sew with the big piece without any seams on the bottom. Okay. Get it up underneath and get that part sewn. Okay, once again, I'm going to clip off the first block that was sewn together. I'm going to lay it down just like I would. I want to press towards, this one's the middle, but towards the 9 patch. So I'm going to put it on top, give it a little bit of a finger press, just so I can keep it open. And I'm going to take the last block to add, and I'm going to go ahead and place it on top of that 9 patch. Line up the corners, making sure that edge is nice and pretty and straight. Lay down on that block that doesn't have any seams, so it's the one on the bottom. I don't have it straight yet, so. And you could, like I said, you could pin at this point if you really wanted to. The nice thing is there's no matching seams on this part. I actually did that on purpose. I wanted to make this as easy as possible. making sure everything is staying nice, pretty, and straight. Okay. Now at this point, I'm going to take these two to the pressing board, and I'm going to really make sure that my seams that we're going towards the 9 patches are nice and crisp and flat. It'll help when you go to do the last stitch, especially since the seam that you're stitching is a little bit longer. Oh, my foot pedal's getting away from me. So I put an ender here so that I could snip away both of those blocks, or both of those strips that we've created, so that I have my needle still with an ender on it that I can leave there. I mean, you gotta love chaining, because you just have that little piece of thread, no waste. Thread's expensive too. So now what you want to do at this point is you want to remind yourself which way it's going to go. Take these to your pressing board, just like we did with the blocks, and press them out, making sure those seams are going towards the 9 patch. I'm going to go off camera and get that done, and then I'll meet you back here to get to the next part. I did get them pressed. I also checked my seam guide because I felt like it moved. Sure enough, it did. So just an FYI, it's always good practice to check that seam guide, whatever method that you get your 1/4 inch. I could have sewn the rest of this and been a little bit crazy. So, as you see, they're both seams that I just sewn are going towards the 9 patches. What that is allowing us, again, these seams are going away. These seams on the second row are going towards. Once again, place your rows or your strips how you want them to lay out inside of your quilt. And then take the first row, just like in the block building, take the first row and flip it over onto the second row. Now, because we did those seams opposite, you're going to be able to see that they will nest really, really pretty, okay? And because this seam's a little longer than a normal block, I always pin. I still pin. And I'll tell you why. Just like your 1/4 inch seam can shift, so can fabric. Fabric is really movable, right? So I go ahead and pin my seams where they will match, and you'll have 2 of them. It's the ones we just created. We just sewed or just sewn 2 seams on each row. So you want to put a pin in them to hold them there. And then if you, well, look, you got to make sure that the fabric is straight too. It's always helpful. Okay. Make sure they're in there. I don't like that pin. It felt funny. We're going to put a pin in it. And because they are a little bit longer, feel free to pin near the corner to hold those edges. If you do it just right, you don't have to worry about taking the pins out when you're sewing on the ends. But I'm going to bring this up to you. So I've got one pin there. We come along, got another pin, one more, and then the last one. Now I'm going to start sewing from this end. And again, when I reach here, I'm going to stop before that pin, but that's going to help anchor that seam. Go to the next one. It's going to help anchor that seam. Now, remember I talked about flipping of the seams inside. I happened to pin it on the same side where there was only one piece of the big fabric, okay? But there were two blocks that had lots of seams. On this side, there's one with lots of seams. So guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sew with both of these facing down, so I only have the one block to really contend with those seams. You don't want those seams to flip, okay? I had to think about it for a sec. I was hoping I did it right, and I did. So you always want to try and pay attention to that to make life easier. You always want to try to make life a little easier. So I'm going to set this up underneath my presser foot, get it all lined up. I'm going to go ahead and start because my pin is close enough to the edge. Now I really want this particular seam to stay in not come unlocked. So I did a little back stitch. And I just want to make sure everything is staying lined up. I can feel that it wants to do something different. I don't know why. All right, so I'm coming up to that first needle. Now I will say, I know that seam happened underneath is happening to be coming towards me. So as it went across, it's not going to flip. I'm going to go ahead and, I've got a good anchor on it. I'm going to go ahead and pull out that pin. Now the next one, it might flip. So as soon as I feel it, yep, it did. As soon as it went over that little hump of my needle plate, I felt it flip. So I'm just going to pick it up and make sure that that seam is laying the correct direction before it gets to the needle. We're going to go to the next one. It happens to be coming towards me. I sped up my machine a little bit. Okay, we're coming up to this needle or this pin. Right before I get to it, I'm going to pull out the pin. I'm going to check that next. Nope, there's no more seams from this point on because I have a solid block underneath. But I can tell you it went a little crooked. There we go. And I don't have to pull that pin out because I want to make sure that point's lined up straight. Because it is actually far enough away from my needle that it's not going to hit. I'm going to take another leader ender. You can see how leader enders can really help you. It's like making two quilts at the same time. Of course, one's a little slower. And of all the things, I don't know where my scissors went, so I'm going to use Jack. Get that one off. Pull out this last pin and open it up. Oh yes, okay. So then when you open it up, you want to check. I got some threads hanging out here. That's okay, I'll clean it up in a minute. But you want to check your points. And by pinning, it really allows that to anchor inside that point and keep that point for you so it doesn't get shifted, okay? That's the first one. And that one was just a tiny bit different in your mindset because you have these blocks that don't have any seams. The other one actually does have seams. So whenever you're stitching, you want to be careful not to flip those stitches, because then what happens is it becomes a little cockeyed and it won't lay as flat. If it happens, it's not the end of the world. It really is not. It's just something to always think about. You don't have that same situation. However, when you go to sew that first stitch, I still would place the 4 patch underneath, because you have one seam to contend with instead of 2. Okay, so I would still put them together and use the 4 patch to go on the bottom. Once they're together, you just have to be more cognitive when you hit the 4 patch area, that you will going to have some extra seams that you didn't have in the first one. Okay, but it is constructed the exact same way. So you just take those blocks, you lay them out, you flip one over and just start sending them through. And then of course, what we're going to do with, once you're done with your placemat, with the topper, I am going to take this and I'm going to, oh, I had one, no, I didn't. Okay. Did I have one? No, I did not have one flip. I was hoping to show you, but I don't have one. I'm going to take this to my pressing mat again, and I'm going to press down that seam to make sure everything stays nice and flat. And I am going to press it going towards the bottom, because for the most part, that's how it wants to lie. Okay. And it makes all your seams, it'll make them nice and pretty. Okay. So then I'm going to press towards the bottom. Now you'll be able to tell on yours which way you'll want to press, but you just want those seams to lie as flat as possible so that it's easier to manage in your quilting. Okay. So I'll see you in just a second. I am going to take that to the pressing board, but I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I have finished pressing my topper. And just like you, I have homework. I need to finish the second variations topper. And I want to talk about one more piece of homework that we have to prepare for next week's session. Okay, next week we're going to begin quilting. So you're going to need to prepare your backing fabric and your batting, get it sandwiched, and get it basted. So what does all of that mean? Well, as far as your backing fabric, there's a couple of choices that you have. Inside the pattern, I did talk about cutting out a piece of material for your backing. I want to say from a 1/2 yard. Oh, it has to be from a 1/2 yard. Now that would require a little bit more fabric, and you're going to have some left over, but that way you don't have any seams. I didn't want seams on the back of my placemats because you essentially can flip them over. So I just didn't want a seam there. That's all preference. Another option is a fat quarter. They're the perfect size for a placemat of this size. So those are your couple of options. Of course, you could also get fabric and put a seam down it, and just as long as it measures out to the measurements that I provided, or even an inch or two wider and longer, right? The reason it is bigger than your topper, okay? And you're going to need to cut your batting, which I'm using Hobbs 80/20 fusible batting. But whatever batting choice you want to make it at least the same size as your backing material, which again is larger than your topper, okay? And the reason for that, when you get your your backing ready, get it pressed, get it sewn, get it cut, whatever you need to do, then if you get it starched, cut your batting to the same size, okay? And then you're going to take your topper and you're going to put it about middle so that you have some extra on the top, the bottom, and the sides. When we go to quilt this with our domestic, this is a little smaller than what I do on a long arm. You can make it bigger, but I feel that measurement, which is about 2-3 finger widths, my fingers, not yours, mine, but it gives, when you're manipulating your quilt, it gives you some place to hold on to that isn't on the quilt where your fingers will get in the way, and it gives us a place to hide threads, okay? Bury threads. We don't have to bury them. We just have to be able to cut them outside of the placemat, so we don't have to do it inside. And it gives you an opportunity to come out and start somewhere else, okay? But most importantly, it gives us a place to hold on to so we can keep this nice and flat and not develop any puckers per se, okay? And it won't hurt your fingers where you I don't know if you've ever done that, but I had, you know, when the needle comes down and the bar comes down, I've gotten my finger in the bar. Whew, that's smarts. So this gives you a little bit of room to manipulate on the edges. You can sew all the way up to the edge and not worry. Okay, so that's why we do that. So you want to put the topper in the middle. This week you're also going to need to baste it. If you've never basted a quilt or a topper or a sandwich is the batting, the backing, and the topper. 3 parts to a sandwich. You have 2 pieces of bread and the stuff in the middle. You've got your batting, you've got your backing and your topper as the bread, and your batting is the stuff in the middle. I don't know what your favorite is. Bologna, you know, ham and cheese, turkey cheese, whatever it is. That's your batting, okay? So that's not enough. We need it to stay. So that's where the basting comes in. Now, if you've never basted a quilt before or basted your sandwich together, I do offer 4 different methods to get it done, okay? Maybe you do baste, but you're just intrigued. So I'll put a link for you on that playlist, and you can go through the 4 different methods. But I'm giving you this week to do that because some methods take longer than others. For instance, if you're going to thread baste, that takes a little bit longer. It's not a very big piece. I personally wouldn't thread baste it just because it is very small. But if that's your preferred method, great. I love thread basting. I just usually do it with a larger quilt. I am using the fusible batting, which just takes heat from the iron. But then there's spray basting, whether they're homemade or store-bought. Store-bought is going to be a lot faster. You can get it done the same day, and it's done and ready to go to quilt. Homemade base is going to take time. Now, because this project is small, I would think you could do it, part of it, one side in the morning, and then in the evening before you went to bed, you could do the other side, and then by the next day it'd be ready. So there is some time elements in some ways of basting. Of course, some people do pin baste. I do not pin baste. I'm not a fan. I don't want it. I worry about hitting it with my needle because I tend to forget. So, but there is pin basting, and so if that's what you do, just the bottom line is get your sandwich prepared. After you get your topper done, get your sandwich prepared, and then get it basted. And next week we're going to quilt. Okay, I'm really looking forward to this. I love quilting. So there's your homework. There's my homework because I got to do the same thing. And I can't wait till I'll see y'all next week. I'm really, really excited, and I hope that you're having as much fun with this. And please, please enjoy this process. There's no stress in this. This is just fun, okay? It's fun, and it's something where we're developing, even myself, you know, we got points in these patches, in these 9 and 4 patches. So the more you do, the better you get. And that is something that is just a part of quilting. Okay, but enjoy the process. And if you're very new, there's a lot of people that find a part of quilting that they love, whether it's cutting, piecing, quilting, binding. But there's always a part of it that they just love and they can't wait to get to. But once you do these, and you just eventually get hooked, right? So enjoy it. Enjoy this process. It's supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to help us develop our skills, give us more confidence, and produce something that spreads beauty and joy on our kitchen table or our picnic tables or wherever that we want to place them. So enjoy it. Today I will be on Facebook Live at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page. The link will be down below in the description if you're interested. We'd love to see you there. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. You know, especially for those who either really enjoy those fast, easy projects or somebody who's a beginner. Because like I said, this helps us all build skills, build confidence, and spread beauty and joy. So please like, share, and subscribe. We would appreciate that. The world would appreciate that. So yeah, enjoy it, have fun with it, get your topper done, get your sandwich together, get it basted, and I will see you all next week. And I can't wait. I so enjoy this time with you. I really, truly do. So I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. But until next time, may you continue to stay healthy, inspired, productive, and joyful. And y'all, never stop making those dreams in quilting come true. I love y'all. See y'all soon. Happy quilting.